Chapter 135, Distribution of Forces. Time flew swiftly on Blue Star, and another 2 years had passed. The southern region of the immortal cultivation world is so vast. Chu Xuan mused as he lay on a plush velvet lounge chair, flipping through the texts collected by Song Junjie and Chen Tang. Yan and Yu countries together cover an area of 1 million square miles, which is only about 1/3 of the southern wilderness. North of these 3 countries lies the Myriad Islands Lake, which occupies the remaining 2/3 of the southern wilderness. This lake is more akin to an inland sea, it seems. Despite being a golden core cultivator, capable of flight, crossing the southern wilderness was still a time-consuming endeavor. No wonder the major sects are so intensely competitive within this confined area. They simply cannot fly out. Fortunately, I don't have to get involved in their petty squabbles. Chu Xuan chuckled lightly. With Blue Star as his backyard, he only needed to obtain techniques and texts from the southern wilderness to be satisfied. Most of his resources could be sourced directly from Blue Star, a truly inexhaustible supply, far from the strife of war. How splendid! According to the intelligence from Song Junjie and Chen Tang, the chaos within the southern wilderness of the cultivation world persisted. Neither the 100 Refinement Sect nor the Heaven Burning Sect was able to completely destroy the other. The intentionally vacant middle zone had now become rooted with 20 to 30 smaller sects, including many established by demonic cultivators. Naturally, no one openly claimed to be a demonic cultivator. They all professed to be orthodox cultivators, denouncing their enemies as heretics and deviants. Due to the inability of the 100 Refinements and Heaven Burning Sects to effectively control this area, these smaller sects had thrived unchecked. Recently, following consultation with Chu Xuan, Song Junjie and Chen Tang also relocated their sect to this area. They were previously situated at the boundary between the Heaven Burning Sect and the now-defunct Divine Star Sect. With the collapse of the Divine Star Sect, their location was naturally assumed under the control of the Heaven Burning Sect. To avoid being purged by the Heaven Burning Sect, they had to move. This lawless area suited them perfectly. Chu Xuan rubbed his temples, feeling a bit melancholic. In 2 years, he had barely managed to advance his physical cultivation to the 23rd level. The supply of mate was simply insufficient, severely impacting his cultivation pace. When would he find another psionic tube? Just then, Bao dashed over excitedly, waving his arms and legs, seemingly eager to say something. Who always stood by Chu Xuan's side, frowned at Bao's impudence and scolded. "Swallow the meat in your mouth before you spake." Bao paused, chewed a few more times, swallowed, and then grinned sheepishly before roaring excitedly. After listening, Hu said joyfully, "Master, there's news from the Zombie Empress." She encountered a fishing boat from the Suanzi country in the Eastern Sea and sensed the fluctuations of primal psionic energy. Chu Xuan's interest was piqued. Excellent. Finally, a trace of primal psionic energy. Over the past 2 years residing on Blue Star, Chu Xuan had grown familiar with the overall situation of the planet. After the psionic burst, governments worldwide had nearly collapsed, with the Han countries suffering the worst fate. Under mysterious circumstances, on the same day the psionic burst occurred, the auxiliary capital was obliterated by an explosion that created a crater over 10 kilometers in diameter. At that time, the emperor, along with numerous concubines, princes, princesses, and ministers who were summering in the capital, perished. None of the imperial direct lineage survived. The empire's imperial and regional armies fell into disarray, each fragmenting and aligning with various new leaders. Some regional forces invaded smaller countries to the south or southwest, establishing dominance there. Other continents also witnessed the survival of powerful forces, such as the Suanzi country, renowned for its craftsmanship, the Arctic forces, noted for their formidable military prowess and resilience against the cold, the Free Alliance, thriving in commerce and trade, the Holy-like theocracy, founded on religious principles, the regional powerhouse, the Harsha dynasty, among others. These formidable powers had established their unique superhuman systems and were actively exploring other regions. Chu Xuan was not yet fully aware of the specifics of other forces' superhuman systems. But intelligence from the corpse boats and parasitic seed suggested that Suanzi's superhumans, much like those in the Han country, had awakened psionic abilities. They had integrated ancient mysterious arts and physical techniques to form a distinct superhuman system comprising psychic medium and warrior. The former excelled in ranged attacks and summoning, while the latter specialized in close combat. Geographically, Suanzi was close to Han, separated only by a sea. Nowadays, people dared not venture into the deep sea, sticking to navigation along the continental shelf, which considerably extended travel times. This was why Black Blade found it challenging to gather intelligence from Suanzi. "Let's go and see for ourselves," Chu Xuan declared, sweeping his hand to beckon Hu and Ba, and they quickly reached the farm. The zombie empress roared excitedly upon their arrival. Chu Xuan frowned, annoyed. "Keep it down, why so loud?" "Hu, you listen." Subdued, the zombie empress lowered her voice, and Hu relayed the message after listening. The corpse boat was captured by a warrior aboard a Suanzi fishing boat. Before its destruction, it sensed faint primal psionic fluctuations. Chu Xuan spread out a map and circled the East Sea. Since the fishing boats from Suanzi would only dare to navigate close to the continental shelf, all he needed to do was follow it to locate them. His gaze sharpened. "We leave immediately." In the blink of an eye, Chu Xuan was aboard his Azure Shadow Shuttle, vanishing into the vast sky. Back at the Black Blade base, Wang Gangzhen and the others watched the streak of blue light pass by, their faces filled with longing. They knew it was the trail of an immortal traveling through the sky. How they wished to one day soar through the heavens as freely as the immortals. Above the East Sea, vast expanses of azure waves stretched endlessly. A large fishing vessel carefully navigated along the continental shelf. Suanzi, an island nation surrounded by sea, frequently faced attacks from mutated marine creatures. Additionally, given its small area, the number of extraordinary beings and high-level zombies was naturally limited. The proverbial cake was only so big, yet many were hungry for a slice. These factors compelled them to accelerate their expansion into other regions, including the neighboring Han country. They were willing to pay any price to set foot on land and escape the perilous sea. This fishing vessel, supported by the Suanzi government, was headed towards the Han country. The ship was a mixed bag of characters. Some were powerful superhumans with government backing, tasked with maintaining order on board. Their ranks included individuals of the 4th level and above, with the strongest even reaching the 5th level. Most, however, were 1st or 2nd level. If they remained in Suanzi country, they would likely never acquire enough psionic cores to advance their psionic levels throughout their lives. Their only chance was to smoothly reach the Han country, step onto the ancient and unfamiliar land, and try their luck. Chapter 136. It's no big deal. Inside the cabin of the fishing vessel was a slender, almost gaunt youth. Looking back at the now invisible islands of Suanzi, a mocking sneer flickered in his eyes. "The rebels must still be searching for me," he thought. "None would guess that I've already secretly boarded this fishing vessel. If Suanzi has no place for me, then I will rise in the Han country. When I return, I will push them into the abyss and personally kill the great general who betrayed the imperial family." In the youth's eyes flickered the flames of revenge. The damned general, once the most relied upon minister of the Suanzi royal family, had secretly become a 9th-level superhuman, leveraging the royal family's trust. He seized power and stormed the palace overnight. That night was etched into the youth's memory forever. His father, mother, brothers, and sisters all fell to the sword and flames. Whenever he recalled those scenes, his heart felt as though it was being ruthlessly squeezed by an invisible hand, a wrenching pain tearing through him. Suddenly, exclamations erupted from the deck outside. "The great general above! There's someone flying in the sky! By the grace of the sun! Could that be the legendary god? He's flying towards us!" Startled, the youth looked through the cabin window toward the deck and saw a figure in black, standing atop a beam of blue light, hovering in the sky above the heads of the superhumans. The youth's eyes widened. Superhumans with the talent for flight were rare and usually limited to short, low-altitude flights. Here in the open sea, from where could this person have taken off? How could he sustain flight for so long? One of the superhumans on deck pointed at the azure light, growling warily. "Which country's superhuman are you? Come down here." The figure in black hovering on the azure light was naturally Chu Xuan. Hearing this, he couldn't help but laugh. "It seems I found the right vessel. This is indeed a fishing boat from Suanzi." The language spoken by that superhuman was not of the Han, but a tongue Chu Xuan had never heard before. "He's from the Han country. Shoot him down. He's the enemy." Several government superhumans emitted low growls as they converged from all directions. Among them, one took advantage of Chu Xuan's back turned towards him and launched a sudden attack. A peculiar talisman slipped from his grasp, hurtling towards Chu Xuan's back. However, in an instant, Chu Xuan caught the talisman with a single hand. He glanced at it, a smile of interest playing on his lips. The talisman was marked with complex, vivid red patterns. At first glance, it bore a resemblance to traditional talismans. Yet upon closer inspection, it was incredibly crude, akin to child's play. Presumably, this was a talisman used by the psychic medium of Suanzi. You. The superhuman was visibly shocked, having not expected Chu Xuan to so effortlessly catch his long-planned sneak attack. His face was a picture of astonishment. "Dare to ambush your superior, you deserve death." A roar erupted. A towering, dark figure swiftly streaked past. When the onlookers turned their gaze back, they were met with a headless corpse. The head had been twisted off single-handedly by a massive man. "Exterminate them all. No need to waste provisions," Chu Xuan said casually, waving his hand dismissively. "Yes," who bellowed in response, darting out alongside Long and Bao. Wherever they passed, limbs and bodies were strewn about, quickly giving rise to a gruesome storm of blood and carnage. Chu Xuan, walking as if in a leisurely stroll, headed towards the ship's cabin. He expanded his spiritual sense to fill every corner of the fishing vessel. He could feel the fluctuations of primal psionic energy within the cabin. Though they were not as intense as the psionic cube he had encountered before, they felt significantly weakened. The youth swallowed nervously and instantly activated his talent. His spade surged to the extreme, and in the blink of an eye, he had reached the bottommost layer of the cavern, hiding amidst a pile of disordered cargo. In his mind, he chatted, "You can't see me, you can't see me." Chu Xuan uttered a light hum, intrigued. The youth who was emitting primal energy had managed to reach the lowest level of the cabin in the blink of an eye. Was that his talent? An ability for high spade movement. With a light step, Chu Xuan moved across the deck. One moment stationary, the next several meters away. The cavern was bustling as many Suanzi natives surged out. Hidden among them, warriors and psychic mediums seized the opportunity to launch stealth attacks. However, reaching Chu Xuan proved to be a formidable challenge. As he passed, those who attempted ambushes clutched their throats, blood streaming from their mouths, collapsing one after another. Soon, he reached the very bottom of the cavern. "No need to hide. Come out," Chu Xuan called out casually, looking at a large pile of barrels. Rustling sounds emerged from within, and a young man, his face marked with fear, crawled out to face Chu Xuan. Surprisingly, he spoke in fluent Han dialect. "My mother was from Han. Please, do not kill me." Chu Xuan's smile was enigmatic. "Whether I kill you or not is irrelevant. What were you fiddling with behind your back?" Startled, the youth's expression quickly turned ferocious. He abruptly pulled out his hands, launching two talismans through the air. Mid-flight, the talismans burst into flames and instantly transformed into two ferocious, green-faced ghosts, one attacking from the left, the other from the right, lunging towards Chu Xuan. Chu Xuan raised an eyebrow, amused. The talismans appeared to have effects similar to the Tiger Soul and Wolf Soul talismans. Yet, such attacks hardly necessitated any magical defense from him. Before the ghosts could even reach him, A radiant halo of Buddhist light emerged spontaneously around him, and a wheel of merit slowly revolved behind his head, casting him in the semblance of a descending Buddha, a saintly figure suspended in the air. The ghastly apparitions collided with him and immediately burned into wisps of blue smoke with a pitiful wail. The youth watched, dumbfounded. Those talismans were his strongest assets for this journey, and yet they failed to penetrate Chu Xuan's defenses. Suanzi had its share of Buddhist temples. So, he recognized at once that this was indeed the light of Buddha. How could such a deadly man possess such profound Buddhist radiance? Could Buddha truly bless such a person? No more thoughts were necessary, nor could they form, as Chu Xuan had already employed a soul-searching technique. Within minutes, he saw the entirety of the youth's life laid bare before him. The youth collapsed, his eyes vacant, his expression blank. Chu Xuan arched an eyebrow in surprise. He had inadvertently captured the 8th prince of Suanzi, the sole survivor of the imperial family after the general's rebellion and massacre. Had he unknowingly extinguished the last flicker of Suanzi's royal bloodline? HSS. It's no big deal. Eradicated just like that, Chu Xuan murmured, stroking his chin nonchalantly. Chapter 137. Strong measures must be taken. The youth, now reduced to a state of stupefaction, was known as Chuan Dio. Chuan, a surname of the Suanzi royal family, and Dio his given name. After perusing his memories, Chu Xuan discovered that the young man had never come into contact with a psionic cube. Yet, there lingered a faint aura about him, an aura that was gradually fading. This suggested that from a young age, Dio had grown up alongside a psionic cube, though the cube might have transformed its form of existence. It seems then, the most likely location for the psionic cube would be the Suanzi Imperial Palace. A light of realization sparked in Chu Xuan's eyes. It seemed a visit to Suanzi was inevitable. Well, he thought, let it be a journey then. Chu Xuan returned to the deck, which by now had become a true ship of death. Every resource from their bodies would be utilized to perfection. The diligent worker bees would carve the flesh into small chunks, consuming it and through multiple processes, regurgitate it as blood honey. The souls would be captured by the myriad souls banner, serving as nourishment for malevolent spirits. As for the binds, well, sometimes the corpse puppets found them particularly appealing. Chu Xuan recalled the corpse puppets and the blood bees back into their respective tower and beehive. He then boarded the Azure Shadow Shuttle and continued toward Suanzi. The kingdom was approximately 1,000 kilometers from the Han country. With the speed of his grain shadow shuttle, it would take only 2 hours to reach Suanzi. Suanzi, Sun City. This city was the oldest in Suanzi, unmatched in its antiquity. Just a glance upward would reveal the snow-capped Mount Sun. However, no one considered it a serene peak. It was, in reality, a dormant volcano. Many believed that one day it would bring destruction to Suanzi. At the heart of Sun City lay the Imperial Palace of Suanzi, home to the unbroken line of the Suanzi imperial family for thousands of years. A family revered by the people of Suanzi. Many believed the royal family to be divine, the beloved children of the great deity Sun, which justified their unbroken lineage. However, not long ago, the general launched a rebellion and annihilated the royal family. Since then, the general moved into the palace. This act stirred massive upheaval throughout Suanzi. Loyal royalists frequently attacked the new government regime, and while many publicly remained silent, there was widespread, simmering hatred toward the general, believed to inevitably invite divine retribution from the sun. Even if heavenly punishment had not yet arrived, it would surely descend upon the government one day. Some even whispered that the missing 8th prince would one day return to cast the sinful government into an abyss with no end. At this very moment, atop the highest point of the imperial palace, a burly man stood bare-chested on the balcony, hands clasped behind his back. Since annihilating the Suanzi royal family, he had resided at the pinnacle of the palace, as if to suppress the spirits of the thousands of wronged souls of the royal lineage. He was the government general, Gui Yongren. Below the royal family of Suanzi were 4 major families, Gui, Lang, and Hong. Yu family had always been a staunch royalist and had been secretly eliminated by him before his coup. Their power and territories were swiftly consumed by the Gui, Lan, and Hong families. Why do you stand here every day? Great General, a woman, similarly unclothed, approached Gui Yongren from behind, her laughter tinkling lightly. Gui Yongren responded calmly, I'm waiting for news. The woman nibbled on his earlobe, her breath as sweet as an orchid. Waiting for that missing 8th prince of the Xuanzi royal family. Gu Yongren shook his head with a smile. No. That 8th prince. Short-sighted and unstable. Even if he did escape. He is no match for me. I am waiting for news from Han. I want to know why the Xuanzi royal family had access to psionics before the burst. That is what I am most curious about. As Gui Yongren was about to continue, something caught his eye, a streak of azure light across the sky. Han. What is that? He furrowed his brows. The woman followed his gaze and gasped upon seeing a dark figure atop the azure light. There's someone up there. Gui Yongren's eyes widened in recognition. Indeed, it was a person. Immediately send word to Long and Hong family. Have them come here, he commanded with a grave tone. A powerful man has come to the palace. Yes, the woman nodded. Within the Xuanzi Imperial Palace, Chu Xuan strode purposefully in a specific direction. Before setting out, he had brought the psionic cube with him. These unique artifacts seemed to possess a strange attraction to one another, instinctively seeking to merge. Chu Xuan didn't even need to sense the direction. The psionic cube was guiding him. Who goes there? Who permitted you entry into the palace? A guard shouted fiercely. Without hesitation, Chu Xuan breezed past them. The guards, roaring in anger, attempted to intercept him but found their bodies suddenly weak, collapsing to the ground in a heap, silenced in an instant. Those who tried to stop Chu Xuan all met the same fate. Soon, he arrived at the palace's rear garden, adorned with intricately designed rookeries and an artificial lake. It's here. Chu Xuan's eyes brightened as he sensed the familiar aura. Who are you? And why do you trespass in our palace? A cold voice called out ahead. Chu Xuan looked up to see a man nearly 3 meters tall approaching with large strides, his physique reminiscent of a small giant. The man's muscles were impressively defined as if he had been sculpting them from a young age. Xuanzi language was not difficult. With Chu Xuan's intellect and wisdom, he had grasped most of it after hearing it just a few times. Hence, he understood the man's words clearly. This muscular giant was the strongest warrior of the Hong family, Hong Jian. His brow furrowed as he sized up the black-clad youth. For some reason, he sensed an extremely dangerous aura around the stranger, even more daunting than the general, Gu Yongren. Was it a misperception? Or intuition? Hong Jian did not know. However, one does not truly know the strength of an opponent until they clash. Hong Jian, an 8th-level superhuman, considered himself among the mightiest in the world. Even if the stranger before him was formidable, surely he could spar a few rounds with him. Chu Xuan, observing Hong Jian's robust form, couldn't help but chuckle. Had it been when I first arrived on this planet, a body like yours would have been the perfect material for crafting a corpse puppet. Now, however, before he could finish, who blurted out eagerly, Master, who wishes to fight? Chu Xuan chuckled, resigned, let the feast begin. Yes. Who charged forward? The master seemed interested in this man's physique. A new corpse puppet could mean a shift in his master's affections. This was no mere rivalry. Strong measures had to be taken. Chapter 138, Four-Armed Vajra. Before Hong Jian could react, whose towering and muscular form had already dashed forward. With a thunderous crash, Hong Jian's head burst open like a watermelon, his blood and brain matter mixing with fragments of his skull, scattering wildly. Some bone fragments even embedded deeply into the stone pavement, a testament to the terrifying force of his punch. Nearby, Long Mei Jie, who had hurriedly arrived upon receiving orders from Gu Yongren, witnessed the scene and her eyes widened in shock. Hong Jian was a powerhouse focused on physical prowess. Even before the global spread of psionics, he was renowned as Xuanzi's most celebrated judo master and strongman. After the psionic burst, his innate talents catapulted him to the status of the strongest warrior in Xuanzi. In terms of physical strength, even Gu Yongren, a 9th-level superhuman, was slightly inferior to him. And yet, what kind of monster was this dark, hulking man who could shatter Hong Jian's skull with a single punch? Long Meiji halted in her tracks, swallowing hard. "Aren't you coming over? Why have you stopped?" Chu Xuan turned around, addressing the voluptuous woman several hundred meters away with a faint smile. Without hesitation, Long Meiji turned and fled. Chu Xuan chuckled lightly. "Bao, take care of her." With a monstrous laugh, Bao's figure vanished in the blink of an eye and reappeared right in front of Long Meiji, startling her as she swallowed yet another gulp of fear. Her spade, which she had always prided herself on, enhanced by 2 speed-boosting spirit companions, was supposed to be her strong suit. Yet, she had been caught up. Long Meiji knew that fleeing was no longer an option. Only by fighting could she possibly survive. "Giant fireball," she bellowed, forming hand seals swiftly, and released a massive fireball that almost completely enveloped Bao. This was her innate talent, control over fire. Though many possessed this type of ability, she had developed hers to an unprecedented level. With just a thought, she could alter the fire size and shape, even shaping it into vivid forms like firebirds or firewolves to attack her enemies. But not content with just that, Long Meiji immediately channeled more psionic energy into 4 talismans, sealing off all directions around Bao to trap him completely. Such measures should make it foolproof. Long Meiji sighed in relief, thinking she had played her final card. The man before her couldn't possibly escape and would have to withstand her attack directly, giving her a chance to escape. Suddenly, she felt a chilling sensation in her chest. Looking down, she found a blade wreathed in cold flames piercing through her ample bosom. Wasn't he supposed to be sealed by me? In her final moments, confusion flooded her mind. Why had her meticulously crafted talismans failed to restrain this enemy? She couldn't have known that Bao possessed an innate ability called Shadow Step. Unlike spells learned by cultivators, the innate abilities of a corpse puppet didn't require casting, gestures, or even the consumption of spiritual chi, and could be activated in the blink of an eye. Long Meiji's talismans had only just been deployed and was still mid-air when Bao used Shadow Walk, appearing behind her. What she saw was merely an afterimage left by his high-speed movement. With a roar, Bao grabbed Long Meiji's body and triumphantly returned to Chu Xuan's side. At this moment, Du Yongren, surrounded by a host of psychic mediums and warriors, faced Chu Xuan from a distance. His gaze immediately fell on the headless corpse of Hong Jian, causing his pupils to shrink in shock. Bao dragged over Long Meiji's body as well. In that instant, a deep terror swelled within Gu Yongren. What kind of formidable foe had suddenly appeared before him in the palace? Gu Yongren steeled himself and said gravely, "Friend, what exactly do you seek in my palace? Speak freely. Whatever you desire, I can provide." Chu Xuan shook his head. "It seems you still fail to recognize the disparity between our strengths. Song Junjie understands the times better than you." Seeing the situation turning against him, Du Yongren let out a low growl, his body emitting an endless surge of dark energy. In an instant, it formed a grotesque and ferocious ghost with 2 heads and 4 arms, each arm wielding a powerful weapon, a ring pommel saber, a vajra, a steel mallet, and a trident, which had swallowed immediately, appearing quite satisfied. "This is Xuanzi's strongest spirit, the 4-armed vajra, a 9th-level entity," Gu Yongren declared. "Friend, you must be aware of the 4-armed vajra's terror. Let's each take a step back, and the vast sky and sea can be our witness. Everything that happened today can be erased." Chu Xuan cast a glance at the so-called strongest spirit, the 4-armed vajra, and a look of surprise flickered across his face. Interesting. This spirit was essentially a fierce ghost, but its potential far exceeded those within the myriad souls banner. Many ghosts, even after consuming numerous living souls and evolving into ghost generals or kings, might not possess even a single life-bound ghost artifact. This ghost not only wielded life-bound ghost artifacts but brandished 4 from the outset, a clear sign of its value for cultivation. Given sufficient living souls, its potential was boundless. With this thought, Chu Xuan's smile widened. He plucked a living soul from the myriad souls banner and tossed it in front of him. 1 to 8. The four-armed Vajra's eyes widened. It had never encountered such pure soul energy. Even when it hunted humans on its own, it could never extract the living souls completely and had to consume them bit by bit. This living soul was like a lavish feast laid out before it. However, the four-armed Vajra merely inhaled deeply a few times, then put on a defiant expression, as if determined not to be swayed. Chu Xuan's smile grew as he effortlessly drew out 10 more living souls from the Great Soul's banner and casually threw out a fierce ghost as well. The ghost bared its teeth, ready to attack, but Chu Xuan restrained it, leaving it to stand confusedly in place. Chu Xuan casually proposed, "Follow me, and you can feast on living souls every day to your heart's content." He then pointed at the bewildered ghost, adding, "And you can become as strong as this ghost." The four-armed Vajra's eyes bulged. The enemy was using such sweet temptations to corrupt it. How could this be allowed? Was it truly resistant enough to withstand such corruption? Of course not. Chapter 139, The Long-Lost Father. The four-armed Vajra roared a few times before swiftly turning to face Gu Yongren. The 4 weapons it wielded were abruptly raised. Gu Yongren's eyes widened, and he instinctively stepped back. You can't attack me," he protested. "We have a contract. We are partners." A scream suddenly pierced the air. The four-armed Vajra launched into a furious assault. Gu Yongren's soul was struck heavily and was soon gasping for survival. Only then did the four-armed Vajra casually trot over to Chu Xuan's side, squatting at his feet, looking up at him with the demeanor of a devoted dog, who watched this display with displeasure. Another competitor for favor, he thought. Chu Xuan's lips curled upwards. "Well done, you deserve a reward." He extended his hand and forcefully patted the top of Gu Yongren's head. In the blink of an eye, he had extracted the general's living soul. The four-armed Vajra, seizing the opportunity, leapt forward and tore Gu Yongren's soul into several pieces, stuffing them into its mouth and savoring each bite. Chu Xuan surveyed the surroundings. There was still some psychic mediums and warriors around, but they all stood there, dazed. It was inconceivable to them that their omnipotent and invincible general had been betrayed by his own spirit and had his soul forcefully extracted by this formidable stranger. Keeping them is just a waste of provisions. Kill them all. Chu Xuan waved his hand nonchalantly. The 3 corpse generals immediately sprang into action, while the four-armed Vajra also laughed maniacally and plunged into the crowd. Screams filled every inch of the palace. Moments later, the palace was laid to waste. Every superhuman had been consumed by the blood bays, soon to be part of the blood honey. The living souls were extracted by Chu Xuan and thrown into the myriad soul banner. He planned to use the myriad soul banner specifically for storing living souls, serving as food for the four-armed Vajra and other fierce ghosts. Soon, the four-armed Vajra voluntarily approached Chu Xuan. Without much effort, Chu Xuan planted a psychic imprint in its mind, ensuring it could never escape his control for all eternity. Seeing the appeasing expression on the four-armed Vajra, Chu Xuan couldn't help but chuckle. He suddenly felt a pang of sympathy for Gu Yongren. After all the effort to negotiate an equal contract with the four-armed Vajra, it had been swayed by mere sweeteners in an instant, devoured Gu Yongren's living soul, and obediently entered into a master-servant contract with Chu Xuan. Fortuitously, Gu Yongren had already perished. Otherwise, witnessing the scene would have been worse than death itself. At that moment, the four-armed Vajra suddenly leaped up, gesticulating wildly as he danced. Of course, Chu Xuan could not comprehend the vividly expressive body language. Without a word, He communicated directly with the four-armed Vajra through telepathy. Do you mean to say there is another malevolent spirit like you beneath Mount Sun? Chu Xuan eyed the four-armed Vajra, his face a mask of surprise. This was indeed fortuitous. Such a spirit of exceptional talent should not be buried in obscurity. However, the psionic cube must be found first. Chu Xuan gazed towards the artificial hill. With a mere thought, the evil soul chain tore through the air. In an instant, the hill was smashed to smithereens. Countless fragments flew in all directions. This artificial hill, constructed of cement, was exceedingly sturdy. It was also covered with various mosses and small green plants. Rarely would anyone smash such a structure. Moreover, this was the Imperial Garden's rear. It was even less likely for someone to harbor malevolent thoughts towards the artificial hill. If not for Chu Xuan's actions, it might have remained undiscovered for centuries that something was hidden within this hill. Chu Xuan's spiritual sense swept forth. With a gesture, he grasped a piece of cement in his palm. With a casual rub, the hard cement crumbled into ash in a moment. Revealed before Chu Xuan was another corner of the psionic cube. It too emitted a strong primal psionic energy. Chu Xuan retrieved another piece of the psionic cube from his storage bag. Instinctively, the two pieces merged together. In the blink of an eye, a larger, yet still incomplete psionic cube appeared before him. It was perhaps only a third of the original size. But the primal psionic energy it emitted was now far greater than before. The surging vitality within it, even from merely a few breaths, quickened one's blood flow. Excellent, excellent. Chu Xuan's face broke into a satisfied smile. His goal for this journey was finally achieved. Casually, he stuffed the psionic cube into a piece of zombie flesh. The zombie flesh immediately expanded at a visible rate, ultimately becoming a perfectly square block of flesh. "Let us go to Mount Sun," declared Chu Xuan, securing his corpse puppet and the swarm of blood bays, and immediately took flight towards the dormant volcano. Mount Sun, a slumbering active volcano, bore a deceptive beauty with its snow-covered surface, beneath which boiled magma at temperatures ranging from 700 to 1,200 degrees Celsius. The malevolent spirit would naturally not reside within the lava. In fact, there was a mountain path leading directly to a cavern beneath Mount Sun, a route disclosed by the four-armed Vajra. Before long, Chu Xuan arrived beneath the cavern and discovered an ancient, decaying shrine. Before he could speak, the four-armed Vajra leapt out from the myriad souls banner, clamoring loudly towards the darkened shrine. "What's all this noise? Don't you know I'm trying to sleep? Four-arms, is that you? Did you come to complain about not getting enough to eat at Guiyomran's place? I told you when I divined last time, that guy was a penniless, short-lived ghost. How could you ever be satisfied following him? Just so you know, I don't have many soul beads here either. I can spare you just one. Wait. 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 Your sudden visit is suspicious. Let me divine something first." A figure swiftly darted out, talking incessantly to the four-armed Vajra, but upon noticing something amiss, quickly pulled out a water dish to commence divination. However, mid-divination, it caught sight of Chu Xuan standing not far off, and its expression turned to one of bewilderment. Chu Xuan then saw clearly. It too was a malevolent spirit, humanoid in appearance, but its legs were replaced by a serpent's tail. Distinctly bizarre. The four-armed Vajra continued to animate and passionately recount everything that had happened. The serpent-like malevolent spirit looked towards Chu Xuan in astonishment, then down at the divination results in the water dish, and went pale with shock. Before the four-armed Vajra could speak again, it dashed in a blur towards Chu Xuan. "Are you not the long-lost father I've been searching for all these years? Father, from now on, I, Two Arms, shall follow you." Chu Xuan clicked his tongue. He had thought to discipline this creature first, carrot and stick. Instead, the spirit immediately prostrated itself. A turn of events that was indeed quite unexpected. Chapter 140, 100 Sex Alliance. "You are very sensible," Chu Xuan said with a smile. "Father, I've been waiting for this day. Good. Chu Xuan nodded in satisfaction. He then looked at the compass in its hand. What is this? Two arms responded earnestly. This is the water divination plate. Ever since the day my spiritual intelligence was awakened, it has been in my hand. The same goes for four arms as four weapons. They were with him from birth. Chu Xuan nodded slightly. The life-bound ghost weapons that come with ghosts from birth are usually those they had in life. It was likely due to an obsession too pure that part of their soul condensed into the form of these ghost weapons. Like four arms, Chu Xuan also effortlessly completed the spiritual imprinting. From then on, this pair of ghosts became his ghosts. Go on in, there's plenty to eat inside. With a casual wave, Chu Xuan threw two arms and four arms into the Great Soul Banner. Though they were of strong aptitude, their level was too low to be directly thrown into the myriad soul banner. The Great Soul Banner was filled with non-aggressive souls, perfectly suitable for their meal. Once everything is settled, it's time to return. Chu Xuan took out the green shadow shuttle, stepped onto the wind, and vanished into the vast sky in the blink of an eye. Days later, news of the palace attack and the mass death of superhumans stormed through like a tempest, sweeping across the land of Xuanzi. Some cheered loudly, believing that the three families, Gui, Long, and Hon, had angered the great deity Sun and brought disaster upon themselves. Others desperately searched for the missing 8th Prince of Xuanzi, hoping to restore him and re-establish the Xuanzi imperial family. There were also impostors claiming to be the 8th Prince, attempting to enter the royal household. Chaos permeated every inch of Xuanzi's land. Endless battles spread unabated. At this moment, Chu Xuan was once again seated atop the rooftop of the Haotai Hotel. As he replenished his body with mate, he practiced the giant elephant body refining technique, tempering his flesh. After merging two psionic cubes, the regeneration of his flesh significantly accelerated. This allowed Chu Xuan to swiftly practice the technique without having to pause for days to wait for his flesh to regenerate on its own. His body refining realm soared once again. Over the year, his cultivation leaped to the 27th layer of body refining. In terms of physical strength alone, he could now withstand a blow from a lower-grade magic treasure without sustaining a scratch. At this rate, I could reach the 30th layer of body refining in another 2 or 3 years, Chu Xuan mused, smacking his lips. The giant elephant body refining technique could only be cultivated up to the 30th layer, where one's body could rival a mid-grade magic treasure. The technique, which even the golden core cultivator Chu Ji had failed to perfect, was about to be mastered by him. He wondered what expression Chu Ji would have if he knew. Let's continue practicing then, until reaching the 30th layer before re-emerging. Chu Xuan calmed his mind and continued to develop the particles within his body. 3 years later, Chu Xuan's body refining realm naturally reached the 30th layer. All 360 million microscopic particles in his body were transformed into titanic particles, making his physique as strong as a mid-grade magic treasure. With a casual strike, he could shatter a lower-grade magic treasure. Of course, the claim of having the strength of 360 million ancient titanic beasts with every gesture was a bit of self-aggrandizement by the giant elephant body refining technique. Chu Xuan was aware of this. Time to return to the cultivation world. With my strength at the 30th layer of body refining, I should have a slight advantage against golden core cultivators, right? Chu Xuan smiled. When the Heavenly Seal Sect was annihilated, he was merely at the late stage of Foundation establishment. Now, he had reached the pseudo-golden core realm, and his body refining had attained the 30th layer. In the southern wilderness cultivation world, such cultivation was sufficient to dominate among those at the golden core level. Black Dragon Mountain. Chu Xuan returned here once again. Sung Junjie and Qian Tang reported recent developments respectfully. It had been almost a year since the 100 Refinement Sect and the Heaven Burning Sect had established a non-aggression pact. Dozens of smaller sects still existed in the area between the two sects. Someone had proclaimed themselves as the 100 Sects Alliance. This name quickly became the collective term for all the small sects in the Middle Zone. Sung Junjie continued, Master, currently the strongest among the 100 Sects Alliance of the True Martial Sect and the Heavenly Sword faction. The True Martial Sect is guarded by 2 Golden Core cultivators. The Heavenly Sword faction has 1 Golden Core cultivator. Recently, both the 100 Refinement Sect and the Heaven Burning Sect have considered absorbing the 100 Sects Alliance but have hesitated due to fear of each other. I've heard that both the true martial sect and the Heavenly Sword faction are considering uniting all the small sects to resist the two major sects. Chu Xuan nodded slightly. The matters concerning those 3 golden core cultivators had already been reported by Song Junjie and Chen Tang. These 3 golden cores had escaped from the Divine Star Sect, Mystical Sound Palace, and Golden Dragon Temple. Due to their relatively weaker strength, they had managed to avoid being targeted and thus escaped. The strongest among them was only at the mid-golden core stage. Now, within the 100 Sects Alliance, they naturally dominated, uncontested by anyone. However, upon hearing Song Junjie's words, Chu Xuan couldn't help but laugh. Uniting into one force was not difficult, but after uniting, was their real intention to resist the two major sects, or was it to play both sides to gain benefits? Any somewhat intelligent cultivator could guess the thoughts of those 3 golden core cultivators. The trend of major sects absorbing smaller ones was inevitable. Setting aside other factors, just considering the 2 nascent soul elders from the 100 Refinement Sect and the Heaven Burning Sect, how could the vast gap in strength be bridged simply by uniting the 100 Sects Alliance? Chen Tang added, also, the true martial sect said that to counter the 2 major sects, they plan to send people to collect spirit stones, magic tools, talismans, pills, and so forth. Chen Tang gave an embarrassed smile. They've already come twice, but their demands are too high, and we've never been able to meet them, having put them off twice already. Judging by the time, they are likely to come again today. Do you have any ideas, Master? Song Junjie spoke up sharply. Old Chen, what are you suggesting? Do you want our master to give treasures to those Datai? This sort of matter should be something we handle on behalf of our master. Chen Tang quickly covered his mouth, his voice filled with panic. Master, I misspoke, please punish me. Chu Xuan's expression was one of amusement and sarcasm. These two were indeed playing their roles in a coordinated act. From the looks of it, Song Junjie and Chen Tang clearly did not want to give anything up and were planning to kick the responsibility to him to resolve the situation. Just then, a booming voice suddenly resounded from the sky outside. Fellow Taoists of Black Dragon Mountain, I have come again. The previous 2 times, you both said you needed time to gather treasures. Now that it's the 3rd visit, surely you can't still have nothing to present? If that is indeed the case, I will have no choice but to report this matter to the 2 Golden Core Elders of my true martial sect for their judgment. Chapter 141, True Martial Sect. The resonant voice from outside the grand formation of Black Dragon Mountain penetrated without hindrance. It spread across the entire mountain, where the few disciples resided. At this moment, no matter where they were, they all lifted their heads to hear the voice clearly. They had heard this voice twice before, and now, it was the 3rd time. The disciples all wanted to know how the sect leader and the deputy sect leader would handle this. If the leaders of Black Dragon Mountain could not resolve this matter, it would demonstrate their inadequacy. Naturally, the disciples would then leave the sect to seek guidance elsewhere. Inside the council hall, Song Junjie and Chen Tang remained silent and motionless, heads bowed like sullen gourds. Chu Xuan displayed a faint smile. He took out the corpse nurturing tower and casually waved his hand. Who, go and kill him? Yes. A burly, dark-skinned giant swiftly swept past Song Junjie and Chen Tang. A chilling gust made their scalps tingle, as they felt the menace of death. The 2 exchanged glances, each seeing the fear reflected in the other's eyes. Within just a few breaths, screams echoed from outside, followed by another gust of bloody wind. Who tossed a blood-stained head at Chu Xuan's fate. The headless body was tucked casually under his arm, being gnawed on indifferently. Crunch, crunch, the disturbing sound of chewing filled the council hall. Song Junjie and Chen Tang stared at the head, swallowing hard as they observed the lingering emotions of unwillingness and shock. Summed. Chen Tang knelt down immediately, utterly terrified. Master, this man was a cultivator from the true martial sect. Killing him will surely provoke the wrath of the 2 Golden Core Elders from the true martial sect. Master, you must flee at once. We will stay behind to cover your retreat and buy you time. Song Junjie also knelt down. Master, I should not have harbored any testing intentions. Please punish me. He had realized it now. Chu Xuan dared to kill a cultivator from the true martial sect because he must have something to rely on. Now, apart from bowing his head and admitting his mistake, he had no other choice. Chu Xuan smiled faintly, pointing at Song Junjie. Smart. Otherwise, you would be the next one I'd kill. Song Junjie breathed a sigh of relief, feeling a cold sweat break out on his back and front. Chen Tang uttered a sound of confusion, still not understanding the situation. After a long moment, he finally murmured softly, "Master, what do you plan to do?" "We are willing to die for you." Chu Xuan scoffed, "You two are still useful, no need for you to die. Stay here, I'll be back soon." With that, his figure swept out like a violent wind. Hu, having already devoured the Foundation establishment cultivator completely, immediately followed him. Now, only Song Junjie and Chen Tang were left in the Grand Hall. Thud. Chen Tang collapsed onto the floor, nearly scared to death. "Brother Song." Chen Tang was smiling now, but his smile was uglier than bitterness itself. Song Junjie sighed deeply. "I've never been able to rid myself of the GU in my body, unable to break free from him. At this point, we are firmly tied to him. Whether we live or die depends entirely on him." Chen Tang said gravely, "Should we inform the 2 Golden Core Elders from True Martial Sect ahead of time?" Song Junjie shook his head, his eyes flashing. "No, although I don't know what he's relying on, he's certainly not afraid of those 2 Golden Core Elders." Chen Tang was shocked, not afraid of Golden Core. Song Junjie nodded. "We can only wait." Chen Tang's face fell. "Let's wait then." "Just wait." As night deepened. True Martial Sect, Council Hall. 2 Golden Core cultivators sat opposite each other, sharing a smile. Their names were Shangguan Feng and Zhong Wei, formerly Golden Core Elders of the Divine Star Sect and Imperial Spirit Mountain, respectively. They were not of high realm, which was why they had escaped a catastrophe. After much wondering, they arrived at the 100 Sects Alliance, and with the might of Golden Core, they forced the former sect leaders to abdicate, themselves taking over as sect leader and deputy sect leader, wielding power as they pleased. Shangguan Feng burst into hearty laughter. "Brother John, we've made quite a fortune this time. Just from the tributes from the minor sects, we've collected over 2,000 medium spiritual stones. And even more small spiritual stones, as many as 50,000. Zhong Wei also laughed heartily. "I suspect these minor sects still have some resources left. Before the 2 major sects start their moves, let's skim a little more and make a run for it." Shangguan Feng nodded repeatedly. "Exactly. Banding together to resist the major sect's absorption, do you believe that?" Zhong Wei laughed loudly. "I don't believe it." Shangguan Feng laughed even louder. "Neither do I. Anyone who believes that is a fool. But they must believe it because they are Foundation establishment, and we are Golden Core." The two exchanged a glance and burst into laughter again, their mirth resounding freely. After a good laugh, Shangguan Feng finally said, "Brother Zhong, your realm is lower than mine, and you are younger. I, as your elder brother, have always looked out for you, so I should take more spiritual stones, don't you think? Let's do this. From the treasures collected this time, you take 30%, and I'll take 70%. Upon hearing this, Zhong Wei's smile instantly stiffened. "Brother Shangguan, that's a bit unkind," he protested. "My realm might be slightly lower and I might be younger, but my strength is not weak. Didn't I step in to handle the early stage Golden Core demonic beast that appeared near our sect recently? You only got some minor injuries because of my actions. If I hadn't arrived in time, you might have been seriously hurt." Shangguan Feng's smile also froze. "Brother Zhong, that's not how you say it. We must prioritize our roles in the distribution of treasures. I am the sect leader, and you are the deputy. That means I get more and you get less." Zhong Wei grew annoyed. "No, no, no." In the blink of an eye, the two began to argue. Suddenly, a laugh echoed unexpectedly in the council hall. "It is clearly mine, yet what purpose does your struggle serve?" This voice startled them both. They abruptly turned towards the entrance of the hall. Under the moonlight, a dark figure stood there. The two were greatly alarmed. They had been too heated in their argument over the spoils to notice someone approaching, an oversight that was astonishing. Shangguan Feng shouted, "Who dares to enter the True Martial Sect's council hall?" Zhong Wei scoffed, "Why waste words? Kill him first." Anyone who could enter the council hall so silently must be a golden core cultivator of their level. No need to talk. Just act. Kill and take the treasure. Wasn't that the convenient solution? Swoosh. Sheng Wanfeng formed a sword gesture, and 3 sword lights, swirling with water currents, screamed toward the vital points. Zhong Wei clenched his fist, sending a massive earthen hand smashing toward the shadow. They attacked with full force, giving no quarter. Just the practice I needed, Chu Xuan chuckled. He stomped the ground fiercely, his body shooting forward like a cannonball. Cracked. The oncoming sword lights shattered upon impact. With a loud crash, the earthen hand also burst apart. In an instant, Chu Xuan's fist landed squarely on Sheng Wanfeng's head. The tremendous force exploded in that moment, like a giant elephant's crushing stomp. With a gruesome squelch, the head was pulverized instantly. Chapter 142, Mighty of Body Cultivator. Zhong Wei's eyes widened in shock. The two of them, one a 4th layer and the other a 3rd layer golden core cultivator, had unleashed their full magical power, only to have it shattered by the physical might of their opponent. Sheng Wanfeng's head had been pulverized with a single punch. What kind of monster was this person? A term long forgotten in the annals of history flashed through Zhong Wei's mind: body cultivator. Only a body refiner could possess such terrifying physical prowess. Zhong Wei immediately retreated, throwing out 2 magic talismans which transformed into tiger spirits to temporarily hold off the attack. He then quickly cast 2 defensive spells. A layer of earthy yellow light armor enveloped his body, and a shield of spiritual chi formed in front of him. He also summoned 2 defensive magic treasures for extra protection. The first was called the Ghost Silkworm Rope, a control-type magic treasure that also provided bodily protection. The second, his life-bound magic treasure, was called the 1,000-layer ruler, a jade ruler engraved with patterns of birds and beasts. As it appeared, it emitted a luminous jade light, positioning itself protectively in front of Zhong Wei. Having arranged these defenses in one breath, Zhong Wei finally relaxed and faced his opponent. His 1,000-layer ruler, capable of both attack and defense, was his most relied upon magic treasure. He could hardly believe that, with all these layers of defense, they could still be breached by the opponent. Chu Xuan looked at Zhong Wei, who had encased himself like a turtle in its shell, and couldn't help but chuckle. "You certainly have a lot of defensive tricks," he said with a smile. Zhong Wei, on alert, responded, "Fellow Taoist, let's talk this over. If you want to be the sect leader of the true martial sect, just take the position. There's no need for such violence." Chu Xuan laughed louder. The position of a minor sect leader held no appeal to him. He smiled and said, "Compared to this so-called sect leadership, I'm more interested in your storage bag." Zhong Wei's pupils shrank suddenly. The next moment, Chu Xuan launched a punch. Bang! In an instant, 3 punches were thrown. The first punch shattered the spiritual chi armor and shield. The second punch caused the ghost silkworm rope to cry out as it fell to the ground. The third punch left the 1,000-layer ruler dim and cracked into 3 pieces. His life-bound magic treasure destroyed, Zhong Wei immediately suffered a backlash, spurting blood and being flung backward. His pupils reflected the rapidly enlarging 4th punch. The only thought in his mind: such mighty strength, such fierce fists. Bang! The head shattered. Chu Xuan's spiritual chi vibrated, flinging the blood and brain matter from his fists. He looked at the 2 headless corpses inside the council hall and smiled faintly. The 30 layers of body refinement truly made him formidable, resisting golden core spells with his physical body and bursting lower-grade magic treasures with his punches. "I wanted to become a sword immortal when I first crossed over," Chu Xuan mused as he looked at his oversized fists and smacked his lips. What sword immortal? They all would tremble under the might of his 30-layered body refinement. Casually, Chu Xuan collected the 2 bodies into his corpse-nurturing tower and took their storage bags as well, then strode out of the hall. The commotion had already drawn the attention of many disciples of the true martial sect. But as Chu Xuan walked out, the disciples quickly dispersed, muttering about how beautiful the moon was tonight, though it was a dark and windy night hardly suitable for such remarks. Sad indeed. Truly fat. Chu Xuan exclaimed as he entered the contents of the 2 golden core cultivators' storage bags. The storage bags of golden core cultivators were indeed richer than those of Foundation establishment cultivators. It was clear that after taking over the true martial sect, the two had not intended to lay down roots but had treated it merely as a means to amass wealth. Many of the treasures in their bags were extorted from other minor sects. Of course, most items collected from the minor sects were Foundation establishment stage treasures like magic tools, pills, and talismans. These were of little use to Chu Xuan now, except for the spiritual steins. Regardless of one's realm, spiritual steins were always useful. The magic treasure of that fellow I shattered, but that old man's treasures are still intact. Chu Xuan examined the dark seal in his hand, named the Black Tortoise seal, a lower-grade magic treasure. Its method of killing was simple: smash it towards the enemy. It epitomized simplicity and brute force. Although it was only a lower-grade magic treasure, it far surpassed even the finest magic tools. Chu Xuan estimated that it could easily crush most top-grade defensive magic tools. With a sweep of his spiritual sense, Chu Xuan erased Shangguan Feng's residual spiritual imprint on it and replaced it with his own soul-blood imprint. His own spirit was strong enough to simultaneously wield about 4 magic treasures. Since he had acquired a magic treasure, he ought to make use of it. An additional magic treasure meant additional strength. And there's this spiritual sense secret technique. Though it's just a lower-grade golden core phase technique, it will suffice for now. Chu Xuan pulled out a book titled Soul-Piercing Needle from Shangguan Feng's storage bag and nodded slightly. The soul-piercing needle had only 2 layers. The first layer discussed methods to temper spiritual sense, and the second detailed how to condense spiritual sense into soul-piercing needles. Chu Xuan wasn't concerned about its strength. Having it was enough. Secret techniques for spiritual sense were rarer than methods for cultivation and spells. Having such a technique already put him ahead of most golden core cultivators. There would naturally be opportunities to acquire better techniques for spiritual sense in the future. Even if he couldn't find them himself, there were always benevolent individuals who might bring them right to his doorstep. In the council hall of Black Dragon Mountain, Song Junjie and Shen Tang paced nervously like ants on a hot pan, unable to stand still for fear that cultivators from the true martial sect would come knocking to demand justice. However, as night gave way to the early morning sunrise, there was still no sign of anyone from the true martial sect. The incident seemed to have dissipated like a drop of water into the ocean, leaving no trace. What on earth happened? Shen Tang was anxious. I've already sent someone to gather information. We should have news soon, Song Junjie said gravely. Moments later, a disciple rushed into the hall like an arrow. Sect leader, deputy sect leader, I've got the news. The true martial sect's golden core. He was so excited that his words came out jumbled. Speak, hurry up. What happened to the true martial sect? Shen Tang couldn't contain his impatience. Song Junjie stepped forward and placed a palm on the shoulder of the Qi cultivation disciple, channeling a cool stream of spiritual Qi into him. This helped the disciple calm down. Speak, Song Junjie commanded solemnly. The disciple respectfully reported, the 2 golden core cultivators from the true martial sect vanished last night. According to what the disciples of true martial sect said, there were sounds of fighting from their council hall last night, and at the end, they saw a black-robed cultivator flying away. Since then, the 2 golden core cultivators have been missing. Song Junjie and Shen Tang exchanged a look, seeing the shock in each other's eyes. You may leave, Song Junjie waved his hand. Yes. Once the council hall was empty again, Shen Tang voiced his shock. It must have been the master. Song Junjie nodded firmly. It was definitely the master. He's not just a 9th-layer foundation establishment as we had guessed, he's a golden core cultivator. Their faces showed a mix of excitement and bitterness. It was good news that their master was a golden core cultivator, but the fact that he was also a demonic cultivator was less cause for celebration. Chapter 143, an invitation from the 100 Refinements sect at Black Dragon Mountain. Some time had passed when suddenly, a cultured and cheerful laugh echoed from outside the Grand Formation at the mountain gate. Old man Tong Ejin here, specially visiting the Taoists of Black Dragon Mountain. Song Junjie and Shen Tang were in the midst of figuring out how to grovel in front of Chu Xuan when they heard this voice, making them shudder simultaneously. Tong Ejin. Wasn't that a golden core cultivator from the Heavenly Sword sect? What brought him to Black Dragon Mountain? Neither Song Junjie nor Shen Tang dared to delay and hurried out to welcome Elder Tong Ejin. Moments later, the white-haired Tong Ejin was respectfully ushered into the council hall. Tom Ejian surveyed the two men and smiled slightly. I wonder where that golden core fellow Taoist is now. Song Junjie and Chen Tang feigned ignorance. Elder Tang, what do you mean? There are no golden core great powers in Black Dragon Mountain. Tong Ejian burst into laughter. No need to pretend. The old man already received the news at the first moment that Shangguan Fen and Zhong Wei are dead. I also have some skills in the way of GU insects, and when I previously made contact with you two, I detected a 5 organs GU in both of your bodies. Tell me, where is that fellow Taoist of yours now? Sung Junjie and Chen Tang was sweating profusely. Indeed, there had been a grand meeting called by the True Martial Sect and the Heavenly Sword Sect at the 100 Sects Alliance. During the meeting, this Golden Core Cultivator encouraged them all to diligently cultivate and stand together against the major sects, even patting them on the shoulders in a friendly manner. It turned out this old fox had known about the trickery at Black Dragon Mountain all along but had never made it explicit. As Sung Junjie and Chen Tang were stammering, a voice came from the entrance of the council hall. Looking for me. Chu Xuan walked into the hall with confident strides, his hands poised as if ready to strike at any moment. It was unexpected. Just after dealing with 2 Golden Core Cultivators, Shangguan Feng and Zhong Wei, a third one had shown up so soon. Song Junjie and Chen Tang tensed up immediately, sensing the tense atmosphere as if a fight could break out at any moment. Should we run? If we don't run now, we might be caught in the aftermath of a battle between Golden Core Cultivators. When Tom Ejian saw Chu Xuan, he did not initiate a fight but instead slowly rose and smiled. I'm Tom Ejian, nice to meet you, fellow Taoist. He exuded the aura of a late-stage Golden Core Cultivator. Chu Xuan raised an eyebrow and casually withdrew his readiness to attack, a curious expression crossing his face. Late-stage Golden Core. If he remembered correctly, according to the intelligence Song Junjie and Chen Tang provided, among Shangguan Fen, Zhong Wei, and Tong Ejian, only Shangguan Feng was a mid-stage Golden Core. Zhong Wei and Tom Ejian were both at the early stage. How was it that Tom Ejian now appeared to be at the late stage? The display of late-stage Golden Core cultivation might be intended to intimidate him. Given the unclear strength of the opponent, it was best not to act rashly. Thinking this, Chu Xuan also displayed a smile. Fellow Taoist Tong, it's a pleasure to meet you. Chen Tang looked confused, not understanding how the atmosphere had suddenly become so amicable. Sung Junjie promptly pulled him aside, quickly stepping out of the hall. The two seniors, please talk, we will wait outside. With a creak, the council hall doors shut tightly. Chu Xuan greeted with a fist and palm salute, smiling. Elder Tong, it's a pleasure. I am He Lian. Elder Tong Ejian returned the smile. Fellow Taoist He, to be so young and yet so accomplished. Truly, the new waves pushed the old waves forward. Their exchange was filled with polite formalities until Tom Ejian finally spoke. I wonder, fellow Taoist He, what is your view on the 100 Refinement Sect and the Heaven Burning Sect? Chu Xuan replied immediately. To be honest, I was but a Foundation establishment wanderer from your country, who, by a twist of fate in these chaotic times, managed to achieve Golden Core. In my view, the trend of major sects absorbing smaller ones is inevitable. The 100 Sects Alliance is essentially scattered sand. We, as Golden Core cultivators, should simply choose a major sect to join. Chu Xuan smiled. I wonder, Elder Tong, which sect's elder are you? Tong Ejian was momentarily taken aback, then burst into laughter. Fellow Taoist, he is truly astute, recognizing my identity at a glance. Well, I won't pretend any longer. Elder Tong Ejian said solemnly, I'm Elder Jen Etong of the 100 Refinement Sect. Would fellow Taoist he be willing to join our sect? Chu Xuan's smile broadened. An invitation from a major sect is not to be refused. I am willing. Elder Jen Etong was surprised by Chu Xuan's readiness. He laughed heartily. Very good. I will report this to my sect. Fellow Taoist He, you just need to wait for that day to come. With that, he rose, gave a formal bow, and left Black Dragon Mountain with great strides. Chu Xuan watched his retreating figure, his expression one of amusement. This Jen Etong had definitely been incognito in the 100 Sects Alliance for a long time. He had previously manipulated Shangguan Feng and Zhong Wei to bind the alliance tightly together. Surely, it was a form of entrapment. Those small sects willing to band together against the major sects were probably already on his blacklist. It was indeed a clever strategy, significantly reducing the cost of absorbing the 100 Sects alliance. It seemed that the Heaven-Burning sect was still inferior to the 100 Refinement sect in this regard. As for joining the Heaven-Burning sect or the 100 Refinement sect, Chu Xuan was indifferent. Either would do. Major sects would inevitably absorb the smaller ones. His occupation of Black Dragon Mountain was simply because the situation was unclear, and he didn't want to get too involved with one side, preferring to observe how things unfolded. Now, however, the situation had clarified. It was indeed time to join one side. Some say it's better to be a big fish in a small pond than a small fish in a big pond. But that depends on the gap between the big and small ponds. If the gap is too large, why not be at the lower end of the top tier? Moreover, with Chu Xuan's current strength, he didn't see himself as being at the bottom among Golden Core cultivators. If the 100 Refinement sect didn't offer him a fitting position, he would show their lack of discernment. Such a sect might not be worth joining after all. On the other side, Jian Yitong maneuvered his flying magic treasure, swiftly departing from Black Dragon Mountain. Initially, he maintained the appearance of a wise and distinguished cultivator, but after flying nearly 1,000 lei, he finally relaxed and let out a breath, his scalp tingling. What level of cultivation does that guy have? Why can't I see through him? He wondered aloud. From the moment he entered the hall, it seemed he was always ready with a killing move. Thankfully, I used a secret technique to disguise my aura, forcefully elevating it to late-stage golden core, which made him stand down his offensive. This is no simple matter. I must report back to the sect immediately. In a secluded stony mountain, Jian Yitong gathered his energy and focused, waiting for someone. Soon, a figure approached from the north, landing swiftly and revealing his true appearance, a stern-looking middle-aged man. The middle-aged man smiled and said, "Senior Brother Jian, what urgent matter requires my personal attendance?" Jian Yitong hurriedly responded, "It is indeed a matter of urgency." He promptly recounted the mysterious disappearance of Shang Wanfeng and Zhong Wei, and his own visit to meet Chu Xuan. The middle-aged man listened with some astonishment. Shang Wanfeng and Zhong Wei, one a 4th layer and the other a 3rd layer golden core, were easily killed by him. What kind of strength does this person possess? Could he be, like Senior Brother Jian, at the 6th layer of golden core? Jian Yitong spoke gravely. "I cannot discern his level of cultivation, but this man is certainly no ordinary individual. However, he has shown interest in joining our 100 Refinement sect. Perhaps you should personally report this to the sect master. A cultivator of such strength must not be allowed to be swayed by the Heaven-Burning sect." The stern middle-aged man nodded decisively. "Senior Brother Jian, your words are most prudent. I will return to the sect and report directly to the sect master. The master has always valued talent and will not miss the opportunity to recruit someone like He Liang." Chapter 144, Rules of the Black Dragon Mountain. 5 days later, 4 Golden Core cultivators from the 100 Refinement sect led a large number of disciples as they suddenly headed south overnight. Wherever they passed, the cultivators of the 100 Sects Alliance surrendered at the sight of them. However, surrender did not guarantee survival. A list had already determined who would live and who would die. A bloody storm unfolded at every corner of the Alliance. Yet, even on this murderous, wind-swept night under a dark moon, there was a peaceful sanctuary, Black Dragon Mountain. Song Junjie, Chen Tang, and about a dozen Qi cultivation disciples remained in the council hall. Even the Qi refining disciples could hear the distant cries of slaughter in the pitch-black night. They shivered, fearing such a catastrophe could also descend upon them. Song Junjie looked around and calmly stated, "Fellow disciples, do not panic. We just need to stay calm and wait for this turmoil to subside." He was a smart man. When Elder Tom Ejian had proactively visited to discuss matters with their master, he knew Black Dragon Mountain was safe. Sure enough, as the 100 Refinement sect marched south, not a single person approached Black Dragon Mountain. This was clearly preferential treatment from the 100 Refinement sect. Shen Tang felt relieved inside. He was good to have a capable master, otherwise, they too might have been completely wiped out on this bloody night. Soon, the sun rose in the east, and the region had a new ruler, Black Dragon Mountain. Jian Yitong and a stern-looking middle-aged man arrived together. "Is fellow Taoist he around?" Their voices boomed across Black Dragon Mountain. Chu Xuan, who had not left the cultivation world these past few days, appeared upon hearing them. The three entered the council hall. The stern middle-aged man smiled and introduced himself. I am Mai Yaguan, an elder of the 100 Refinement Sect, and also a junior brother of the same sect lineage as Elder Jian. Chu Xuan greeted them with a fist and palm salute. Mai Yaguan took out a Taoist robe, an elder's token, and a high-quality storage bag of immense capacity, handing them to Chu Xuan. I have informed the sect master of everything about you, and he was delighted. He immediately agreed to have you join the 100 Refinement Sect. He has also granted you authority over Black Dragon Mountain and a radius of 3,000 lei. Such a vast territory is indeed enviable even among other Golden Core elders. Mai Yaguan continued smiling. From now on, you are Elder He of the 100 Refinement Sect, capable of establishing your own doctrines and teachings. You will have unrestricted access to the sect's treasure and scripture vaults. Of course, exchanging various treasures still requires sect contributions. Chu Xuan accepted each item one by one, pondering the astuteness of the 100 Refinement Sect. They had assigned the region around Black Dragon Mountain directly to him. At first glance, it seemed they were granting him the opportunity to establish his own sect there. In reality, they positioned him as a bulwark against the Heaven-Burning Sect. Merely a few thousand li to the south lay the territory of the Heaven-Burning Sect. Despite these thoughts, Chu Xuan's face betrayed none of his emotions. Instead, he offered a smile. Convey my thanks to the sect master for his generosity. Mai Yaguan, seeing Chu Xuan's cooperative demeanor, smiled as well. Of course. After exchanging a few more pleasantries, he piloted his flying magic treasure away. Jian Yitong looked towards Chu Xuan, his expression somewhat awkward. Apologies, fellow Taoist He. The territories of Yang country have already been allocated, and new Golden Core cultivators can only be assigned to this part of the 100 Sects Alliance. However, my Heavenly Sword Sect is just beside you. In a few days, another newly advanced Golden Core Elder will also come to establish his base here. The three of us will form a strategic triangle to support each other in case of any incidents. If the Heaven-Burning Sect attacks, you need not worry. Our sect will defend us with all its might. Chu Xuan nodded slightly. The 100 Refinement Sect's bold move to absorb the 100 Sects Alliance was undoubtedly backed by the confidence to disregard any non-aggression pacts. This, he was not worried about. After Jian Yitong departed, Song Junjie and Chen Tang scurried up to Chu Xuan and knelt silently before him, waiting for him to speak. Their lives were in his hands, after all. Chu Xuan spoke indifferently. From now on, I am an elder of the 100 Refinement Sect, and you are its disciples. This land within 3,000 li is under the purview of our Black Dragon Mountain lineage. Song Junjie and Chen Tang's eyes widened in surprise. Just like that, we've become disciples of the 100 Refinement Sect? This was an enormous boon. Chu Xuan continued calmly, I cultivate virtue, which you cannot learn. Thus, teach whatever you wish to teach, and propagate whatever you wish to propagate. Henceforth, our Black Dragon Mountain will embrace all streams and foster inclusivity. Song Junjie and Chen Tang exchanged looks. Cultivate virtue. Do you believe it? I certainly don't. At that moment, Chu Xuan recalled the sources of sect contributions for the 100 Refinement Sect. Besides eliminating enemies from opposing sects and fulfilling sect missions, a primary source was the successful instruction of disciples. A multitude of strong disciples would naturally bring abundant contributions. When the time came, whatever was needed could simply be exchanged with a wave of his hand. Chu Xuan stated casually, as for cultivation, I have but one requirement. Song Junjie and Chen Tang immediately perked up their ears to listen. Chu Xuan stated indifferently, Qi refining disciples, once you have drawn Qi into your body and embarked on the path of immortality, if you do not advance to the middle stage of Qi refining within 5 years, you shall be transformed into a corpse puppet. Similarly, if a middle stage Qi refining disciple does not break through to the late stage within 5 years, they too shall be made into a corpse puppet. The same applies to Foundation Establishment disciples. For those at the initial stage of Foundation Establishment, if they do not reach the middle stage within 10 years. And those at the middle stage, if they do not advance to the late stage within 10 years, they will all be turned into corpse puppets. Song Junjie and Chen Tang's eyes widened in shock. You just said you cultivate virtue. Listen to yourself. Are these the words someone who cultivates virtue would say? Han, do you wish to say something? Chu Xuan glanced at them. Sung Junjie and Chen Tang shuddered as if a supreme beast had glanced at them. We have nothing to say, absolutely nothing, Chen Tang said seriously. Chu Xuan continued, there are too few Foundation establishment cultivators. Within a month, Black Dragon Mountain must have at least 5. The number of Qi refining disciples is also insufficient. We need at least 100 within a month. This task is also yours to handle. Sung Junjie and Chen Tang were dumbfounded. Chu Xuan casually waved his hand, and several magic tools fell before them. These are yours now, use them well. Perform well and there will be rewards. The two looked down and their eyes lit up. They were all high-grade magic tools, and there was even a top-grade magic tool. Chu Xuan casually added, if you fail to complete the task, you two will also be turned into corpse puppets. The two shivered and quickly nodded their heads. After Chu Xuan left, Chen Tang managed a bitter smile. Brother Song, what should we do? Sung Junjie said coldly, to complete the master's task is difficult yet simple. Chen Tang was puzzled. What do you mean by simple? A ruthless glint appeared in Sung Junjie's eyes. Abduct them. If they don't want to come to Black Dragon Mountain, we'll make them. Aren't you skilled in GU techniques? Just like the master controls us, control those Foundation establishment cultivators. With a month's time and the master's gifted magic tools, it's more than enough. Once Black Dragon Mountain's notorious reputation spreads, it won't matter if no mortals come for the spiritual seed selection. Then we'll go town by town, directly capturing mortals with spiritual roots and bringing them back. Chen Tang took a sharp breath as if seeing Sung Junjie in a new light. Chen Tang solemnly said, Brother Sung, you are ruthless enough. Let's do it.